Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Anime Dreams. Today's fanfic topic is: what if Naruko's kiss changed everything? Disclaimer: the content on this channel is intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's begin. He was her everything, the first person she had recognized who shared her loneliness. Her rival, best friend, enemy, and now friend once again. Somehow, she had finally gotten through to Sasuke Uchiha. He returned to the Leaf Village after the war, only to leave almost immediately on a journey of redemption. She remembered that day vividly. Now stay out of trouble, Sasuke. Naruko and I put in a good word for you, but it wasn't easy, Kakashi said in his infuriatingly calm voice. What does he mean by stay out of trouble? Why are you wearing a traveling cloak? Where are you going? Naruko demanded. I'm going away for a while. The village needs time to recover, and my presence isn't going to help. I have to prove that I've changed. I can't do that here, Naruko. Only Team 7 would ever give me that chance. It's better this way, Sasuke explained. Naruko snapped. She tried to lunge at him, but she was held back. Sakura had stopped her. Sakura, let go of me. We spent years trying to get him back, and now that he's back, he wants to leave again. Naruko growled, her voice filled with frustration. Take us with you, Sakura pleaded, desperately trying to hold the furious blonde back. You two have nothing to do with my mistakes. I'll be back, I promise. It's just better if everyone has a chance to grieve and rebuild before I try to earn their trust, Sasuke said. Kakashi sighed. He hated to see the look of absolute hurt on Naruko's face. She looked torn between crying and trying to stop Sasuke. This was going to get difficult. He's right. Besides, Naruko, Sakura. Do you really want to force him to stay if he won't be happy here? He'll just leave again anyway, he said, trying to lighten the mood. You promise you'll come back? Naruko asked Sasuke, and he nodded. All right. I don't like it. You should stay here. You can prove yourself here. But I want you to be happy, and if you can't do that here right now. She trailed off. Sasuke nodded and headed off without another word. He had never been one to drag out goodbyes. That had been a few years ago. The village was thriving again. It would be so easy to forget that a war had ever happened. But whenever she glanced down at her arm, she was reminded that it had. She had taken the transplant. It hadn't been easy, but she convinced Sasuke to do it as well. She wondered how his new arm was working. Naruko wondered how he was doing in general. The blonde truly had no idea where he was or anything. Maybe he was afraid if she knew, she would have convinced him to come back sooner. Why did everything have to become so complicated? She asked as she looked at an old photo of Team 7. It was from when they were Jinan. Back then, she hadn't known much about Sasuke. She knew he was incredibly smart, strong, and a bit prideful. He had always been a bit prideful. That was significantly easier to understand than why he was the way he was. Everything had been taken from him as a small child. She had never had a family, except for the brief time when her father had been revived and she was trapped in that other world. Sasuke had a family. It was more painful for Sasuke to be alone because he remembered what it was like not to be alone. Didn't he notice something was going on? She asked herself, wondering why neither the third Hokage nor her father had done anything about the Uchiha situation before it deteriorated so severely, for the 1000th time. She sighed. There was really no use dwelling on the past. It couldn't be changed. The blonde decided to focus on her paperwork. She hated paperwork, but it served as a great distraction sometimes. Meanwhile, Sasuke continued his long walk home. It had been years since he had set foot in the Leaf Village. During his travels, he had visited all 5 great nations and even a few island nations. He had traveled far and wide, met many different kinds of people, briefly lived in places with cultures radically different from the ones he had grown up with, eaten all kinds of exotic food, and dabbled in what seemed to be dozens of trades. It's enough, he said to himself. He had helped Naruko to defeat Madara. He had also saved at least hundreds of lives during his travels, some from assassins, would-be robbers, or medical emergencies. In some small way, he felt like he had taken the first steps toward, if not erasing his sins, at least making up for them. Sasuke had finally chosen to return home for the most trivial of reasons. He had encountered a family of foxes, ordinary creatures, not summons, and certainly not a rare breed. Just red foxes that roamed freely throughout the Fire Nation and beyond. This sight immediately brought to mind the 9 tails, which, in turn, made him think of her. And with that, he resolved to go back home, he murmured as the entrance to the Leaf Village came into view. The guards' faces were etched with astonishment. They had clearly recognized him. One of them approached cautiously. "Sasuke? Are you back for good?" he inquired tentatively. The last Uchiha knew the other man was utterly terrified of him. It was to his credit that he had the courage to approach him, though. Most people would have simply fled. "I'm back for good. Don't tell Naruko though. I want to surprise her. Do you know where she is?" he asked, and the guards nodded. "She's in her office now," they answered, not at all eager to deny Sasuke the information he was seeking. Naruko would want to see him immediately. Sasuke would likely be furious if they didn't answer him. Thus, they didn't hesitate to tell him where she was. "Thanks," he said and swiftly departed. "Did Sasuke Uchiha just say thank you?" one of the guards asked the other. "Yeah. I think so. Hell must have frozen over. I expect we'll see a pig fly before the day is out," the other replied. Sasuke smirked and headed to the Hokage's office. He peeked in through the window and smiled when he saw Naruko at her desk. She was actually doing paperwork? He hadn't thought she'd ever be able to sit still long enough to handle some of the less glamorous aspects of her role. He hated to admit it, but she was now captivating in more ways than one. Her long golden hair likely reached her backside. Her eyes were still the same sapphire blue he remembered, with sun-kissed skin and those distinctive whisker-like markings. She was wearing her Hokage robes, but even they couldn't hide the fact that she had matured into a woman in every conceivable way. "Annoying," he muttered. She just had to go and become even more beautiful while he was away. He had barely noticed it before, really. They had usually been engaged in life or death battles, so there wasn't much time for aesthetic observations. But now that the world was at peace, it was another matter. He had to restore their previous relationship dynamics. He smirked as he decided exactly how to do that. The last Uchiha stealthily entered through the window and soon pinned the blonde against the wall. Yes, showing up unannounced after years of being gone would surely upset her. Then they would fight and laugh. Everything would return to normal. Naruko was Naruko. She never changed. "What the?" Naruko exclaimed, quickly slamming her knee into her attacker's stomach, sending him flying. When he landed on his back, she pinned him. "Is that any way to greet an old friend? It's your own fault for letting your guard down while doing paperwork. A ninja must always expect the unexpected," he taunts her with a smug smirk. Naruko's eyes widen as she realizes who is underneath her. It was Sasuke. He was back. No one else smirked like that. A transformation jutsu could help someone look like him, but no one could ever match that confident smirk of his. "Most people aren't foolish enough to pin the woman who fought against Madara against a wall, so I assumed everyone had more working brain cells than you. Clearly, I've hit you on the head too many times. Sorry about that," she says cheerfully. Sasuke smiles. There was the friend he knew and loved. Everything was already back to normal. "You wish." "Oh, and Naruko?" "Lose the pigtails. They were cute when you were 12, but you're a grown woman now. Hokages don't wear pigtails," he tells her. "Oh, this from the guy who wore that ugly purple belt for years?" she asks. "Sorry, The sound didn't exactly have a lot of fashion options. I was a little busy focusing on more important things. But seriously, lose the pigtails, Sasuke says. Naruko shakes her head and undoes the pigtails. Sasuke smiles. Her hair now looked like a golden waterfall. That was better. Naruko suddenly realizes she is straddling Sasuke's waist, which was incredibly awkward. She blushes slightly. He had to go and get even more attractive somehow. Sasuke was Sasuke. She had always wanted him back. But it wasn't like she was Sakura. She wasn't in love with him or infatuated with him. Naruko just missed him because he was one of the few people who understood her. So, are you going to get off me, or do you want to answer some interesting questions when your assistant walks in? He asks. Yeah, good point. Sorry, she says and hops off him. It's all right. I did sneak up on you. Couldn't resist messing with you. So, how has everything been? He asks. You are so annoying. She playfully smacks him. Sasuke blinks. That wasn't the response he had expected. He had just asked her how everything had been. You leave for years and the first thing you say to me is about my hair and ask how everything has been? Things would have been a lot better if you were here. She yells at him. Naruko, quit yelling. I'll never understand why you want me around so much if I'm such a jerk, he says and flicks her forehead. Ouch. Jerk. I want you around because you are my friend. That's why. It doesn't matter that you can be a jerk. You're still my friend, she mutters. Sasuke shakes his head. That made absolutely no sense. Then again, he had stopped expecting her to make sense a long time ago. Naruko just operated on a very different wavelength than most people. Anyone else would have given up on him. They would have tried to defeat him before he harmed them. But not her. She was loyal to the point of absolute foolishness. He both loved and hated her for it. You're really strange sometimes. So, I see you finally became Hokage. Not sure how. You spent more time chasing me around than training, he says with a smirk. Hey. I trained a lot while doing that. Oh, and the whole saving the world thing kinda helps. She protests and then smiles. He chuckles and caresses her cheek. Sasuke couldn't help it. She was just so cute at the moment. Naruko looks shocked at the gesture and he quickly retracts his hand. I'm glad it's you. I was foolish when I said I wanted to be Hokage. It's just not me. Besides, I can't imagine sitting behind a desk all day and battling paperwork, he says. That's not all I do. The blonde objects. No. But it's a large part of it. I wonder if you knew that as a child, if you would have been so eager to get this office, Sasuke muses. Naruko huffs. Of course, she would have wanted to become Hokage anyway. That was such a silly thing to say. Anyway, you were gone for years. The least you can do is get me some ramen. She says. It's a good thing that my clan's assets were restored to me. Otherwise, I'd never be able to afford to buy you all the ramen you want. Where do you put it all? He asks. Oh, I kinda think that Kurama speeds up my metabolism, actually, she replies thoughtfully. Didn't know you knew the word metabolism. Come on, let's get you your ramen, he says with a smirk and darts off towards the ramen shop, with an angry blonde racing off behind him. Jerk. I know stuff. She says as she catches up to him. A few minutes later, Sasuke blinks. She was on what had to be her 10th bowl of ramen. Maybe there was something to that whole nine-tails speeding up her metabolism thing. He shakes his head in amusement. Some things never changed. It was comforting in a way. So what made you come back? She asks. A whim, he answers. Please refrain from such actions. I believe you have a methodical approach and do not make decisions arbitrarily, she remarked. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Who provided Naruko with medical knowledge? Metabolism and attention to detail? I suspect Sakura. She has become proficient in medical techniques, hasn't she? I will explain later. For now, I feel inclined to have a bowl of ramen, Sasuke stated. But you've expressed a dislike for ramen before, she queried, puzzled. I don't despise it. I simply cannot consume multiple bowls, Sasuke clarified. After consuming a bowl and settling the bill, Sasuke was surprised when Naruko led him back to Team 7's training grounds. He regarded her with curiosity. It has been a considerable time since our last sparring session. Let's assess your adaptation to your new arm, she suggested with a smirk. I assume you missed losing. Very well, Sasuke agreed, assuming his stance. She smiled, relishing the experience of combat with him. They were evenly matched, although she acknowledged Sasuke's superior finesse. He moved with a grace reminiscent of a large feline, lethal, elegant, and captivating. One desired to approach but understood the danger. You seem preoccupied, he observed, pinning her down. Perhaps slightly. I am simply delighted that you have returned, Naruko admitted, noticing Sasuke's softened gaze. Despite my reservations about your choice of an Uchiha, I can comprehend your decision, Kurama commented. What do you mean by bite him? Naruko inquired, confused. Your canines are elongating. Your intent is not harm but to assert dominance, Kurama clarified. Naruko was puzzled but found Sasuke's neck oddly inviting. She recalled Orochimaru's mark on him, a claim she resented. Her teeth grew sharper, and suddenly, Kurama's advice became clear. Ouch! Sasuke exclaimed, jumping back as Naruko bit his neck. He inspected the minor wound, surprised by the blood. You said it wouldn't hurt. Considering his resilience after losing an arm, I deemed a bite inconsequential. It likely caught him off guard, Kurama defended. Why did you bite me? Sasuke demanded. A ninja should always anticipate the unexpected. It did serve its purpose, didn't it? She playfully reminds him of his earlier words. Sasuke shakes his head, acknowledging her reputation as the most unpredictable ninja for good reason. He refocuses on their sparring session, relishing the opportunity to engage with someone at his level, free from holding back. Few individuals existed whom he could spar with in such a manner. Chidori. His voice reverberates as he unleashes the lightning attack toward his sparring partner. Rasengan. She counters with equal intensity. Their training, although potentially lethal to most Jonin, is akin to a playful exchange for them. After hours of intense training, they both collapse, catching their breath side by side. Sasuke notices a shooting star in the night sky, prompting Naruko to suggest making a wish. He dismisses the notion as childish, but Naruko insists on it, making her wish silently. I can't reveal my wish. That might jinx it, she teases him. Sasuke shrugs, closing his eyes momentarily, intending to rest but succumbing to exhaustion from his travels and training. Naruko notices Sasuke has fallen asleep, a testament to the trust he places in her. She reflects on his changed demeanor in sleep and playfully runs her fingers through his hair. Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, suggests she could playfully bite him while he sleeps, hinting at their deeper bond as mates despite Kurama's initial reservations due to Sasuke's Uchiha heritage. What would happen if I did? Naruko muses, intrigued by Kurama's suggestion. You are bonded. Kyuubi states matter-of-factly. What exactly does that entail? The blonde asks for clarification. Do I need to explain the concept of procreation to you? In human terms, it's akin to marriage, but bonding carries a deeper connection. It's a soulful union. The Nine-Tails clarifies. Procreation? She exclaims in surprise. Kyuubi mentally sighs. He observes how these two individuals, despite their deep need for each other, seem unaware of their own feelings. He attributed this to their youthful innocence in the past, but as adults, it should be clearer. Yet, it seems he must elucidate. You desire him. He desires you. You wish for his companionship. He desires offspring to continue his lineage. The solution appears evident. He remarks with a hint of frustration. I don't feel that way about him. Naruko protests. Really? After years of pursuing that Uchiha relentlessly, now she claims indifference? He recalls when he first saw them, their bond was evident. However, he understands her initial confusion due to her young age. Now, there's no excuse for her to be unaware. Continuously explaining the obvious is tedious, but preferable to dealing with an unhappy host, which would make him unhappy too. Deny it as much as you want. We both recognize the reality. He states before disconnecting the link, avoiding further arguments over the obvious. Stubborn fox. She mutters, grumbling when a slumbering Sasuke pulls her close. That night, Naruko learns something surprising. Sasuke Uchiha enjoys cuddling, albeit subconsciously. She attempts to free herself from his embrace, but he holds on tightly. The only way to escape is by waking him, but that seems unkind. He looks peaceful, and she's exhausted, enjoying his warmth. Eventually, she drifts off to sleep in his arms. Sasuke awakens hours later. Initially confused, he finds his pillow comfortable yet warm and soft. He also hears a steady heartbeat. Realization dawns as he remembers falling asleep at the training grounds, using Naruko's chest as his pillow. Thank goodness she's a deep sleeper, he mutters in relief, knowing if she discovered he considered her chest comfortable, it would lead to chaos. He feels a bit uneasy as he lifts her in bridal style, swiftly carrying the sleeping blonde in his arms. The last Uchiha thinks things would be less awkward if she didn't wake up with his head on her chest or on the hard forest floor. He and Naruko had endured worse sleeping conditions than the forest floor, yet he didn't want her to wake up with a stiff neck or back for no reason. Gently, Sasuke places her on his bed and then examines himself in the mirror. She landed a solid hit, he remarks, noting the dark bruise on his neck. Fortunately, the bleeding had ceased. Sasuke had always been a quick healer by normal standards. While lacking the Nine Tails' accelerated healing, he was fortunate in that regard. Still, he anticipated the mark lingering for a few days. It seems my medic training comes in handy, he murmurs, reflecting on his ability to assess and treat his own injuries. Realizing it wasn't fair to use Karen as a practice dummy, Sasuke decided to learn basic medical skills during his travels. Many medics agreed to teach him, knowing his reputation. They preferred teaching healing techniques to Sasuke rather than facing potential danger, even though he was no longer an S-class criminal. His past still cast a formidable shadow, eliciting awe or fear from people, sometimes both simultaneously. His chakra control had always been proficient, although not at Sakura's level. The Sharingan had facilitated his learning process, making it easier than it would have been otherwise. While he wouldn't match Tsunade or Kabuto's expertise, he deemed himself confident. I could probably remove it, he considers regarding the bruise but dismisses the notion as trivial, especially after what he had done to Naruko. He could never fully grasp her forgiveness, even when self-forgiveness seemed elusive. Sasuke sighs, acknowledging that her boundless forgiveness could lead to peril one day. Fortunately, he was back now and resolved to protect her. I wonder how long she'll remain asleep. She's surprisingly deep sleeping for a ninja, he muses, tucking blankets around the dreaming blonde. Naruko snuggles into the warmth, her contentment evident as she smiles and moves in her sleep. Naruko was lost in a dreamlike state, unaware of her surroundings. In that moment, she savored the sensation and taste of his kiss, finding bliss in the gentle caress of his hands against her skin. It's pleasurable, she murmured during the kiss, running her fingers through her lover's dark hair. He remained silent, his smirk evident in the kiss, seeming pleased with her response. Each time she attempted to focus on his face, she found herself distracted by his kiss or touch. She recognized him as a Leaf Village resident, identified by his Jonin attire that accentuated his sleek, muscular physique. He effortlessly spun her around, positioning her with her back against him, facing a tree. She felt moisture on her nose, prompting her to open her eyes. Was it water? Was the roof leaking? Her surroundings were unfamiliar. Where am I? Naruko inquired. You're in my quarters. I thought it best to bring you here rather than have you rest in the training area, Sasuke replied in his smooth voice. A chill ran through her. Naruko had once found Sasuke's voice fascinating as a 12-year-old, but now, as an adult, it held a different allure, especially after an unsettling dream. Thank you. Your roof seems to be leaking, though, she remarked, trying to conceal her embarrassment. She couldn't believe she had dreamt such a thing, especially with Sasuke nearby. What if she had made sounds in her sleep? Had Sasuke noticed? It's not surprising. I haven't resided here for years. The entire district probably needs maintenance. I'll inspect the roof later, Sasuke stated casually. You can repair a roof? Naruko asked, surprised. I can wield lightning, yet roof repair surprises you? Sasuke countered with a hint of amusement in his eyes, despite his neutral tone. Well, it just seems so ordinary, Naruko explained. Naruko, do you think any construction worker would willingly enter the Uchiha district? Most believe it's haunted, and those who don't are intimidated by me. I can handle it, Sasuke clarified with a shrug. Haunted? Naruko exclaimed, scanning the room as if expecting a ghost to appear. Sasuke shook his head, amused by Naruko's reaction. He couldn't help but think it ironic that the woman who had saved the world was afraid of ghosts. My district isn't haunted. Otherwise, they wouldn't let me stay, Sasuke assured her. I hope to make a difference, Naruko murmured, smiling brightly. Sasuke was puzzled by her joyous expression. Nonetheless, he reciprocated her hug, albeit reluctantly. I may not understand, but you're welcome, Sasuke replied softly, taking in her comforting scent. In your own way, you express belief in me, Naruko stated with a grin. Only for you, Naruko, Sasuke muttered. Are you hungry? I have some canned food, Sasuke offered, noticing Naruko's curiosity about her surroundings. Yes, please. Naruko responded eagerly, her eyes wandering around the unfamiliar room. Is this your room? The blonde inquires. Yes, it is. Why do you ask? Sasuke responds, curious about her observation. It appears quite minimalistic. Typically, one's living space reflects their personality. Yours seems rather bare, although I know your character is anything but empty, she remarks. I haven't used this room much since I was 13. Priorities were different back then, not focused on interior decoration, he chuckles lightly and guides her towards the kitchen. He prepares some chicken noodle soup, considering it might be the only dish she'd opt for, especially if she's hungry, given her occasional childish tendencies. Thank you, she expresses while sitting down to eat with him. So, what were you dreaming about? Sasuke inquires while beginning his meal. Oh, I can't recall. I often forget my dreams, she fibs. He shakes his head slightly. Naruko's deception skills are lacking. Nevertheless, he decides not to push the matter further. There are more pressing matters to address. Regardless, I must admit, I'll need your assistance in dealing with the council, Sasuke admits. Naruko blinks, surprised. Sasuke rarely asks for help, making this moment quite unusual. It brings back memories of their time as Jonin. Naruko? Sasuke recalls their past training sessions, attempting to scale trees with chakra control repeatedly. Yes. She responds. Could you inquire with Sakura about her technique? He requests. Naruko grins, finding it amusing that Sasuke is seeking help. It's a rare sight indeed, one she won't let him forget easily. Sure. Hey, Sakura. How do you manage it? Naruko calls out, hopping down from the tree she climbed to speak with her friend. Sasuke sighs with relief. It's better this way, through Naruko. If he asked Sakura directly, she might misinterpret it. This way, he'll only have to endure Naruko teasing him about it, which is preferable to giving Sakura false expectations. Okay, she told me. It's surprisingly simple, Naruko said, Once she climbed the tree using only chakra. How did you do that? He asked. Naruko explained. Sasuke blinked. That was it. Really? It was that straightforward that it had become complex. Thanks, he said and followed the blonde's instructions, replicating what she had done. Wow. You haven't asked for help since we were Jinan. Yeah, sure. What do you need? She inquired. This was embarrassing. If it were up to him, he'd rather not discuss it at all. He disliked asking for help, especially about something this personal. But really, he didn't have much of a choice. I'm the last of my clan. Despite the past and how they feel about me, they want the Sharingan bloodline. It's valuable to this village from both a military and prestige perspective. They expect me to have children, he explained. But you always wanted to restore your clan anyway. So what's the issue? Naruko replied, puzzled. It was hard to imagine Sasuke as a father. Him holding a baby in his arms wasn't an image she could easily conjure. Sasuke was anything but gentle, and babies required gentleness. I haven't decided who I want to restore it with yet. They might try to arrange a marriage for me to continue the bloodline. I might not have a say in it, Sasuke explained bitterly. Naruko gasped. Did he really think they'd do something like that? No wonder he hadn't wanted to stay. You don't think they'd actually do something like that? The blonde asked in horror. I know it's a possibility that has likely crossed their minds. It'd be easier for them if I cooperated. Obviously, they'd prefer me to marry someone I find desirable. But I doubt my unwillingness would stop them from forcing a match, Sasuke replied. Danzo is dead though. You killed him. That kind of twistedness is gone now, she said. There will always be dances in this world. You can eliminate one, and 10 more will appear elsewhere. I hate asking you this, but they are more likely to listen to you than me, he said with a shrug. Yeah, I'll talk to them. That wouldn't be right to force someone into marriage and parenthood just because of a bloodline, she assured. Sasuke nodded. What did you say after that? At that moment, he wished he had Naruko's talent for casual conversation. It wasn't something he could do. So I'll head back to my place, change, and talk to them, she said, finishing her meal. Sasuke nodded. Naruko did as she said. About an hour later, she was in the council room. Right, this is going to be awkward. But you can't make Sasuke marry someone he doesn't love just to continue the Sharingan bloodline, she stated. How did you know about that? They asked. Wait, you were actually considering it? Naruko asked in shock. The council members sheepishly rubbed the back of their heads as they regretted asking the question. Naruko then proceeded to express her disapproval for a solid hour, articulating why their suggestion was ethically wrong and drawing comparisons to Orochimaru and Kabuto, which she deemed the ultimate insult. Lady Hokage, you are overreacting. We were simply going to propose that he consider finding a suitable partner, which aligns with his desires anyway, one member mistakenly interjected. Naruko responded with thunderous indignation, pointing out their guilty demeanor and questioning their motives. A small crowd gathered outside, alarmed by Naruko's outburst, indicating something significant had upset their leader. Kakashi, nonchalantly carrying his orange book, decided to check on her. He humorously mentioned the possibility of Gaara appearing due to her loud shouting, lightening the tension. Naruko, what's troubling you? Your shouts could summon Gaara, thinking you're in danger, Kakashi asked, partly joking about Gaara's vigilance. She explained angrily how the council's proposal to forcibly pair Sasuke off felt like treating him as a mere breeding tool, which she found sickening. Knowing Naruko's strong principles regarding right and wrong, Kakashi felt uneasy about the topic. Naruko viewed morality in stark terms, and even Kakashi couldn't condone the idea of manipulating bloodlines. Well, I trust they've learned their lesson. Haven't you? Kakashi asked, trying to ease the tension, to which they nodded in agreement. I certainly hope so, Naruko muttered, leaving with Kakashi. Meanwhile, Sasuke went to the market to diversify his diet beyond canned goods. Despite the stares and whispers he received, Sasuke remained composed, accustomed to such attention. "Sasuke?" Sakura called out, approaching him. "Sakura," he greeted, focusing on selecting tomatoes, his favorite food. He pondered encouraging Naruko to adopt a healthier diet than ramen and chicken noodle soup, amazed at her fitness despite her eating habits. "I got back yesterday," Sasuke replied simply to Sakura's question. "Why didn't you come to see me, Kakashi, and Naruko?" she inquired with a tone reflecting her disappointment. Sasuke, true to his nature, opted for honesty. Had he been more empathetic, he might have realized the consequences. But that wasn't his way. "I spent time with Naruko. We trained and grabbed a meal. It was too late to visit you and Kakashi afterward," he explained. "I see. I'm glad you're back," Sakura replied, masking her hurt. Regardless of her efforts, Naruko always seemed to be Sasuke's priority. Sakura doubted Sasuke's affection for her, he likely admired her strength. Yet Sakura had grown significantly stronger herself, training under Lady Tsunade and mastering advanced medical techniques. Despite her prowess, she remained an afterthought to Sasuke. "Thank you. I heard you're progressing well towards becoming the head medic?" Sasuke attempted to engage in conversation. "Yes. Lady Tsunade commended my progress," Sakura replied cheerfully, feeling validated. This recognition as an equal buoyed her spirits. Perhaps her initial reaction to Sasuke prioritizing Naruko was exaggerated. After all, as Hokage, it was natural for him to prioritize matters concerning the village. "That's great. I picked up some medical jutsu during my travels, nothing extraordinary, but enough for basic aid," Sasuke shared. "Really? I didn't expect you to have an interest in that," Sakura said, pleased to find common ground. "I prioritize survival. Patching oneself up is crucial," Sasuke admitted, acknowledging his pragmatic approach. Naruko, with her wild chakra, was deemed unsuitable for delicate techniques requiring control, a fact Sakura knew well. "Would you like to grab lunch together?" Sakura invited, hoping to bond further. Typically, Sasuke declined social outings, but hunger overrode his usual reluctance. They settled on a location, food being his primary concern. Meanwhile, Naruko, seething after her encounter with the council, spotted Sakura and Sasuke heading to a romantic cafe. The sight stirred an unexpected pang in her chest. "I advised you to establish a clear connection with him early on. You should have shown your interest sooner. It's prudent to check on her activities now," Kurama advised calmly. "He's my friend, nothing more. Even if they're in a relationship, I genuinely wish them well. Seeing my two closest friends together is a positive thing," she replied, masking her true feelings. "Your attempts at deception are transparent. Investigate what plans the girl with pink hair is making. I've sensed her attraction towards your partner for some time. If you delay, you might lose him." "Fortunately, he hasn't reciprocated her feelings," the Nine-Tails remarked thoughtfully. Despite her desire not to pry, Naruko couldn't resist the urge to observe them discreetly. She trailed them while concealing her presence. Observing Sasuke order a tomato salad and chicken, she paid little attention to Sakura's order as the latter placed her hand on Sasuke's knee. Sasuke subtly moved away, although Naruko was certain he noticed the gesture. "Where did you travel during your absence?" Sakura inquired. "I visited numerous places, including the 5 great nations and several islands," Sasuke responded, taking a bite of his salad. "Did you meet anyone noteworthy during your travels?" Sakura probed further. Suppressing a snort, Naruko understood precisely what her teammate implied. Sakura was hinting at Sasuke's romantic interests or potential lovers during his journey, thinking she was being discreet. "I encountered many interesting individuals. However, none compelling enough to keep me away from home indefinitely," Sasuke replied, addressing the underlying question. "You never know, someone special might be closer than you think," Sakura remarked with a shy smile. "Perhaps. Thank you for lunch, but I have to attend to my house's roof, Sasuke excused himself. Although true, his need to fix the roof was secondary. Sasuke simply wanted to leave. While he had grown more tolerant of Sakura, he preferred the company of a certain person with beautiful blue eyes, engaging in lively conversations. Sighing as he departed, Sasuke acknowledged the danger of his fleeting desires. He couldn't afford to be enamored with her. Naruko had always been steadfast, forgiving him despite his past actions, even after his attempt on her life. Everything I touch withers away. One day, she'll realize that, he muttered, returning to the Uchiha district. Her unwavering forgiveness and loyalty were perilous. He feared that indulging too much would corrupt her. Sasuke had stayed away to avoid causing her harm again, but despite his efforts, he couldn't resist returning to her. That wraps up this segment, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Remember to hit the like button, share with fellow anime enthusiasts, and subscribe for more exciting content. Your support means the world. Until next time, keep dreaming with anime dreams.